day 8, and we woke up after spending the night in Kasa, which is the provincial capital of Spiti Valley, and we're staying in Kasa for 3 nights as a mid-ride wind down or break. So it gave us the opportunity to drop a lot of the luggage off the bikes, and also have a bit of a rest if we wanted to, and get things like washing and other things organised while we have the 3-night break here. In Kasa you can get most things that you need, things like SD cards, if you need cables for electronics, that kind of stuff. It's a good place to pick all that up, and it's probably the only place in the valley that you can pick it up. And in terms of food, there's a wider range of Western food available, so it's probably time that after 8 or 9 days of Indian food, 3 meals a day, it's time to eat some Western food when you can. This morning we are heading to what we've been told is the absolutely stunning and mind-blowing Pin Valley, which is situated in the Pin Valley National Park. So we need to head about 10 or 12 kilometres back down the road, and then turn to the right and go over the bridge and enter the Pin Valley National Park and see what's there in front of us. By now we have set up a routine, or it kind of evolved of itself, that Tom likes to be at the front, Hung's comfortable being in the middle, and I'm perfectly happy being down the back. So without conscious thought or talking about it, that's just how it happens every day now, and that works fine for us. It doesn't stay like that all day. Sometimes one's in front of the other, but as a rule, that's how we're riding through. This is the NH5, which is the main and only road through Spiti, and it is in pretty good condition. It does get closed over winter from the snow. It can be a period of 4 months or so where you can't get through, but if anyone's going to get through, they're going to get through on this road, and that's usually how the fuel tankers are coming in, is on this road. The other way in through Losar at the northern end of Spiti is impossible in the winter months. You've got a small chance here, and a decent 4-wheel drive vehicle, and some of the petrol trucks that you see are ex-military 6-wheel drive Unimogs, so they can usually push through unless it's 12 drifts of snow. This road is never heavily trafficked anyway, but this is a good example of what I talked about previously, that if you get up and leave early, and by early I'm only talking 7 or 8 o'clock, then the majority of the traffic isn't on the road. Not that it would make a bigger difference in this case if the traffic was on the road, but yeah, look, if you can get up a bit earlier than the local population, then you get the roads to yourselves. To our right is the Spiti River, which is the main river through this region, and it runs all the way down to the flatlands in out of the mountains, which is probably 300 or 400 kilometres away. We were here last year, and we were here during the once-in-a-century floods, and it was pretty crazy. But this time it's really sedate and fine. There's no problems at all. Above us now is the only power line through the valley, and as you can see, it's not very substantial, so it gets knocked out all the time by landslides, and you can go many days without power. Most of the bigger towns, and there's only 3, Narko, Tabo and Kaza, have a generator, but it doesn't really work. Another good reason to try and leave early is that you avoid the small little rock falls and landslides you get once the sun hits the sides of the hills and starts to warm it up, and you get that expansion of the rocks, and some of them drop down onto the ground. We've now entered the Spiti Valley, I beg your pardon, the Pin Valley, and as you can see, the road's not sealed, and it's not sealed in any part of it. Our intention is to head to the end of the road and to a village called Mud, M-U-D-H, where people who want to do pilgrimages or trekking, they all tend to leave from there, and they can do a 5-day trek through the valley from Mud to Kaza, camping out along the way. So this road every winter or in the landslide season gets landslides on it, and it's always being cleared and blocked, and as you're riding along now, you can see to the right hand side, you can see evidence of the landslides that have come through either earlier in this season when it was landslide time, or last year. Last year was really bad. It was closed from at least 2, maybe 3 weeks because they had multiple landslides because of the once in a 100-year rains. This year it doesn't look too bad, and you can see that they are doing some work on it, but like everything up here to do with roads, wow, it's such a big job. This is such a harsh environment, and the climate is just crazy. The tyres on the bikes love this stuff. As long as there's no water, it's fine. You're just cruising along. Every now and then you'll come across a bit of soft drift that'll wake you up as you fishtail a little bit, but as a rule you can comfortably sit on 50 kilometres an hour and just blast along, and there's no issues at all. main road runs north of the Pin River, but there are some villages and minor roads on the south side as well. That would be well worth exploring. They wouldn't see many people from outside the area at all in those places. You've always got to keep one eye on the weather, because if it starts to rain, then it could very quickly turn into a bit of a nightmare. On the left-hand side now, you can see a communication tower for cell phones, and up until 3 or 4 years ago, the only provider that could give you some form of service was a company called Geo. But now, if you use Airtel, which is the biggest one in India and has the widest coverage, Airtel covers for about 90% of Spiti now. There are a couple of places, Chickham and a few other places where there's no service at all. You might be able to pick up a bit of Geo, but my advice would be go for the Airtel card that you're going to get in Delhi, and that's going to help you all the way through. During the day you'll lose service from time to time, but in every town that you stay in the Spiti Valley, Airtel will enable you to get onto the internet. By spreading out a bit when we're riding, you don't have that feeling that you're part of a big group belting through. So that's what we do. We spread out, and as you can see, I just passed Tom. He was stopping for some photos, and then at some point he'll catch me and pass me because they know that I'm going to be down the back sweeping if anyone has an issue. Going past Hung now, and Hung actually has a passenger on the back. And when we got to the turn off to come into the Pin Valley, there was a guy waiting at the bridge with the carpets that he sells, floor carpets, and he's looking for a ride, it turns out, to mud. Now, vehicles are pretty few and far between up here, so it's pretty normal for everyone to just throw everyone else into whatever car, truck, van, bike they've got and get them to where they need to go. So Hung and I stopped. Hung put him on the back of his bike, and I put the carpets onto the back of my bike, and we're going to take him all the way up to Mud, which is probably around about a 2.5 hour ride up to Mud. And then when he gets to Mud, he'll go out and sell his carpets and then find a way to get back down the road again. Every now and then I just pull over and stop and try and take it all in. It's pretty overwhelming to the senses. The scale and the majesty of everything is pretty much out of this world, and the solitude and the quietness is nice to have. If you come from a busy life, then it's nice to just stop every now and then and look at things around you and take it easy. There goes Hung with his passenger, who was a very happy man to get a lift from us, and it's no problem for us, and it's good for him. Whenever you stop in the Spiti Valley, the most important thing is look up to whichever side has the overhang on you and determine if you think that it's safe to stop there. There are lots of rock falls, so you soon work out where you should and shouldn't stop, and then go from there. So sometimes you'll go to stop and you'll look up and you think, no, I think I might find somewhere a little bit better to stop. If you have to stop, if you're forced to stop somewhere which is looking exceedingly dodgy, my method is to get as close into the wall on the right-hand side as I can, and that way if anything lets go, hopefully it'll go over the top of me rather than sitting out on the edge of the road and letting it come through and bowl you over. Every now and then you will see a car that's just been absolutely trashed by some huge rock coming down and hitting it. These JCB tractors, or Komatsus, whichever brand they are, you see them all the time on the roads, and they use them for landslides as well as road work, so they're basically stationed everywhere. In this case, it's more a case of roadworks, because you can see here that they've got the roller out to get the road as hard as they can. Looking at this as I go through, to me this looks like at some point this season or last season had a pretty big landslide come through here and do a fair bit of damage, so they are doing some work on it now to get it going. Once again, it's just practical common sense that when you're out on the bikes in this kind of area, as you can see, there's absolutely no backup or shops or anything, so always carry at least a litre of water with you, and preferably two. I know the Pin River is to the left-hand side of you there, but I wouldn't be so confident in drinking that water with a decent stomach. There goes Hung again with his carpet seller on the back. To the left down the bottom, they're playing cricket. Cricket is a huge sport in India. They're cricket mad, so he'd bowled some guy out, so that was me yelling out, how's that? Indians and Australians have a very similar mindset and sense of humour, and India is the largest set of migrants into Australia now, so there's lots of Indians there. Everyone in India knows someone, even if they're a third cousin 2 times removed, who's the tuk-tuk driver's friend. Everyone knows someone who lives in Australia. So Australians are really well received in India. Look, once you get out of the hellhole that is Delhi, everyone's really well received. But Australians, they have some form of commonality with, so it works well. it's amazing from time to time. You are on roads like this for hours and hours on end, and then all of a sudden you'll see a 2 or 3 cylinder tiny 2-door car that's designed to go down to the shops with grandma in it. They're out and about having a go. So the rise of the tiny micro cars in India has completely changed things in terms of getting around. In the past, they would have all been on motorbikes, but now it's all the little cars, and it's making a massive problem in the bigger cities, where you'll come through some of the hill stations, towns and cities, and there's traffic jams that go for 2 hours because there's nowhere for anyone to park, so they just park on the side of the road, and it ends up going from a 4-lane highway, which would flow really well, down to a 2-lane at best, and usually just 1 lane, clogged up system. So I understand that, people want to have cars rather than motorbikes, but unless they address the parking issue, I think that they're in for some very, very big problems into the future, as even more people tend to get cars. The architecture right throughout Spiti is much more Tibetan based than it is Indian. And, at times if you didn't know where you were, you would almost think that you were in Tibet rather than India. And there are a lot of Tibetans who live now in the Spiti Valley, as well as Nepalis. Carpet seller's happy as Larry. He knows that we've probably got another hour and we'll be at mud, and he can go out and find some customers for all his carpets that are on the back of my bike, and then we can go forward from there. This road presents no problems at all in the dry, but in the wet it would turn into a pretty ugly place in quite a few places where there's more mud than gravel. This particular stretch of the road would be an absolute nightmare in the wet. You can't see it on the video, but you can see as you're riding plenty evidence of how nasty it gets when it is wet by the old track marks that are dried out now and waiting there. So yeah, it's a good thing it's not raining. once again, you can see that there are power poles to the left-hand side of the road. There's no actual wires to them yet, but the thought and the intention is there. They just got to actually get it together and get it done. So, actually, no, there are power lines there. I beg your pardon. You can see by the width of the river to the left-hand side just how crazy it is when it's in the wet season. I have no doubt that whole river at times would be just one huge free-flowing river rather than what you have there now, which is large areas of dry riverbed with the river meandering through what looks like a leisurely pace. If you're feeling particularly brave, you could try and go and have a swim in one of the rivers up here. You better hope that you like cold water because they are absolutely freezing. Two most important things in terms of your personal health up here is lots of sunblock on any exposed skin because you're pretty high and the UV rays are pretty intense up here, and make sure you've got some decent sunglasses, preferably ones that are able to block out dust and other stuff, because as you can see it is pretty dusty and horrible up here. I ride with glasses or goggles that are dustproof. In the past I used to ride with normal sunglasses, and I've lost count of the number of times I've had bits of dirt and dust in my eyes, and I'd be spending time during the day trying to get them all cleaned up. So invest a little bit more in some quality equipment and it will pay you back, even though you might not realise it because you're not having any issues. This drive actually turned out longer than what we thought it would be. For some reason we thought we'd be at mud in about an hour and a half, and it ended up taking us about 2.5, nearly 3 hours to get there. Next time it would be worthwhile probably staying in mud for the night. There are there's probably 3 guest houses in mud that you could stay at and spend the night there and then come back the next day. The reason we're stopping so often is not because we need a rest or a break or anything. It's just to stop and take some photos and take in what's unfolding in front of you. Sometimes you'll come around a corner and you'll just think to yourself, my God, look at that. It's just amazing. The bikes get really dirty and dusty and and need, a lot of care and attention, and you need to do that. We were lubing the chains every second day, and if we encountered water during the day and went through deeper rivers or water crossings, then we'd do the chains the next morning anyway, regardless of if we'd already done them the morning before. You need to look after the vehicles up here because it's a really, really harsh environment, both on bikes and on bodies. So 10 minutes every morning or 15 minutes every morning just checking everything is not going to be the end of the world for you, and it's also not going to affect things, and it's going to make the ride a lot smoother for you. Just look at that scenery. It's just out of this world. Just crazy. In the winter, once again, this would be full of snow, probably right down to the road, but definitely up on the peaks, and probably at least halfway down the hills. If you're going to be doing quite a bit of filming while you're up there, then it's worthwhile cleaning the lens on, say where this one is positioned down low on the bike. Look, clean your lens at least once an hour. There's quite a bit of footage that I have that's just not usable because I didn't clean the lens, and the lens is just completely coated in dust. So it's worthwhile going through the process every now and then and just give it a clean with a decent cleaning cloth, not just a piece of tissue or your t-shirt. So you scratch the lens, and then you're going to be a lot better off. It's so quiet out here. Just no sound. And at night, if the sky is clear, the stars are just absolutely amazing because there's no settlement light to block them out at all. It's quite stunning. There's lots of people who come from all over the world just with the intention of going stargazing, and it is one of the best places in the world to see the Milky Way. So it's nice if you've got the time and it's not freezing cold and you can wake up at 9 or 10 at night and head out, then it's well worthwhile doing. You can see by the amount of traffic on the road that our new best mate, the carpet flogger, would be in quite a bit of trouble if he didn't have to. If we hadn't have picked him up, there's probably a good chance he'd be sitting there for quite a few hours waiting for someone to come through and give him a lift up to mud. you haven't ridden on unsealed roads very much before, then probably it's going to take you a day, maybe a day and a half to just get used to it, and then you're good to go. As I think I've said before, as long as you stay on a proven track, rather than heading into the middle where you've got a lot softer stuff that can make your fishtail a bit more, then there's no problems at all. It's obviously not like riding on sealed roads, but it's not some kind of nightmare where you're going to fall off every 5 minutes. There's Tom taking photo 4787 for the day, and that's hung up front with the carpet seller, who by now is getting very excited because we're nearly in mud. One of the secrets to have an uneventful ride and not have too many dramas is, I find, is to ride to about 70% of what you think your abilities are. And that way you're not riding on the edge, and, you know, God forbid something was to happen, you're not having to deal with that drama. So, look, I ride a bit slower and a bit, not cautious, but a bit more relaxed than I probably could. I could probably ride a bit faster and harder, but we've been doing these rides since 2014, and I've seen a large number of guys fall off on the rides over that period of time, and you know, they might not end up with serious life-threatening injuries, but it's just another thing that we've got to deal with. And, you know, out here, what would be a normal, straightforward thing to deal with can become problematic. You know, we carry a medical kit on us, but if if you think you've got a broken bone or some kind of twisted ankle or a cracked rib, then yeah, it can be pretty problematic out there. The eternal question, do you go left or do you go right? Hung's ahead of us, so the carpet seller has taken him down the right road, and Tom and I have worked out that this is the way to go, is go left, so left we have gone. This road looks like it's sealed with bitumen. It's not. It's just the compacted crushed rock that they put down. So yeah, if it's well compacted, then it's almost as good as a properly sealed road. It really doesn't get a lot better than this. If you like open spaces and you like wild places, then the Spitty Valley is for you. If you're looking for an urban environment, then it's not going to be for you. So you've got to be comfortable with being dirty, and you've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. But the rewards are pretty out there. This is a truly magical place to ride. So in about another 20 minutes we're going to end up, sorry, about 40 minutes, we're going to end up in mud, where we stop and have a rest and have a look around and then head back down the road again.